For more analysis, we can speak to our chief foreign editor, Rob Parsons. Rob, let's start by talking about the timing. What do you read into this? Why now?
Well, these measures were pretty much put together last year. They form part of the annual defense spending bill in the United States last December. The particular act is called the Caesar Act. It reflects the part played by a Syrian photographer, codenamed Caesar, who managed to smuggle out over 50,000 images of torture in Syrian prisons. So I don't think there's any particular significance about the timing now, since this has been planned for quite some considerable time, except in the sense that the United States wants to continue to influence how things develop inside Syria. The military aspect of the conflict looks almost lost at this point. The United States has abandoned any military ambitions it may have had itself to influence the course of the conflict, and is looking to use political and economic means to achieve what it hasn't achieved by any other means. So I think it falls within that context. And there's no doubt that these are very severe sanctions indeed, being categorized as the most severe since the start of the conflict itself in 2011. And most significantly, apart from going after, in the first batch, the 39 individuals and entities that you mentioned, including the President Assad's wife, Asma, the key, I think, here is that this goes after foreign businesses who are trying to do any sort of, or engage in any sort of way with the Syrian government, particularly in the energy sector, but also, critically, in reconstruction. The impact on the Syrian economy will no doubt be enormous. Perhaps the Americans are also trying to influence Russia here as well. Russia, the main foreign power to benefit from the conflict in Syria, having backed the regime and backed its mostly triumphant march against the opposition, now has to pick up the bill for the reconstruction. And if nobody can invest in the economy, it's going to be very difficult for the Russians to deal with.
And Rob, is there a feeling that these sanctions are going to have the desired effect and actually hurt the inner circle of the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad? Or will it perhaps, as many have said, be a case of, once again, the Syrian people paying the real price here?
Well, I think you're absolutely right to raise that point, Tom, because it is most certainly going to be the Syrian people who are going to bear the brunt of this. The elite of Syrian society will ensure that they are protected. The inner circle is not going to suffer greatly from this. But for the millions of Syrian people, many of whom have been made homeless by the conflict of the last 9 years or so, it's estimated that as many as 50% of the population is homeless as a consequence of the conflict. The figures are catastrophic: 380,000 people dead, 11 million people displaced. 80% now living beneath the poverty line. And in the last few months, things have got even worse, partly as a consequence of the pandemic, the coronavirus, also, of course, a consequence of corruption in Syria, but also because of the financial collapse in surrounding countries, in particular Lebanon, which has played a crucial role as a conduit for finance for Syrian business. Now that banking is collapsing in Lebanon, Syrian banks are drying up. It's almost impossible for businesses to get going to finance themselves at the moment. So, in a short answer to your question, the most likely outcome of this is indeed that the real victims of these measures, however well-intentioned they may be, are going to be the Syrian people.
Yeah, indeed. Very tough economic times for the region as a whole, and indeed for Syria, and made worse undoubtedly by these sanctions. Thank you very much for that update. Our chief foreign editor, Rob Parsons. Thank you.